Hi, today is Wednesday, January 31st, and today is policy cutoff day for the House of Origin, which for me is the State House. And what that means is if a bill has not had a public hearing or had an executive session after that public hearing and been voted out of their respective committee, then those policies are effectively dead in the State House. Today I just really want to talk about some of the common sense solutions that I had this session that will not be moving forward because of the majority party. These are really common sense positions that would help actually fix Washington State. Last year I introduced a bill, House Bill 1633. It was called the Homes for Heroes program, and what it effectively did was it provided a down payment assistance program, which was a hand up, not a hand out, to people that are really important to our community. Mental health workers, childcare workers, police officers, firefighters, nurses, things that our community really needs right now, and folks that we really want to be living and working within our community. Unfortunately, this bipartisan bill that was signed on by 12 Democrats and 12 Republicans was sitting in the House capital budget this year, and the House capital budget chose not to push this bill out, even though a big majority of members within both parties wanted a bill like this to go forward to help people live where they work inside of our community. I am very disappointed that House Bill 2040, the carbon auction rebate bill, the CAR bill, did not even receive a public hearing this legislative session. This bill would have put $214 back in drivers' pockets if you had a registered vehicle in Washington State. This bill received statewide attention. It received national attention. King 5 News went out to the pump. They talked to people who said that this program would significantly help them. I want to remind you that this program has nothing to do with repealing the Climate Commitment Act, which is before the legislature as a House initiative right now. What this bill did was took excess revenue. This is revenue that was not anticipated by the state of Washington because of the Climate Commitment Act, and gave it back to the people of the state of Washington in the form of a rebate. It's really unfortunate that our majority party does not want to do anything to help the citizens of the state of Washington fix the crisis that they've put us in with high gas prices and high grocery prices. This year I proposed a bill which would have expanded very slightly the urban growth boundaries in the state of Washington. What it would have done is, if you can imagine a street that sits right outside of the urban growth boundaries, and one side of the street has housing, the other side doesn't, and there's infrastructure in that street. There's water, sewer, electrical lines, but there's also bus routes close by. It would have just allowed cities to be able to use the parcel on the other side of the street to create housing, which we are in a dire crisis in Washington State to add more housing units. Currently, we're about 1 million units short. This very simple fix in the city of Richland alone would have added 250 acres, somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 homes for that city. But it had a hearing, but there was no executive action taken on that bill, so that bill is effectively dead. I am very disappointed this session that House Bill 2406 did not receive a public hearing. This was a simple bill that was putting together a task force with our local skills centers, labor workers, schools, OSPI, to form a task force to see why our 16 and 17-year-old students aren't being employed, especially when they are doing like CTE courses or skills center courses. Some of these kids are coming out with degrees. For instance, we offer a CNA program, a Certified Nursing Assistant program, in Tri-Tech Skills Center in Tri-Cities, Washington. Those students come out with a license from the state of Washington at 16 and 17 years old, yet people aren't willing or wanting to employ them at this time. This task force would have looked into issues in Washington State of why students can't move forward and get jobs right now. I don't know if you have a 16 or 17-year-old like I do at home, but for them to try to find employment even outside of these skills center degrees is extremely hard in Washington. This would have taken away barriers to allow our children to start working in fields that we desperately need them in: construction, electrical, automotive, healthcare. And so I'm very disappointed that this bill was not even allowed to have a hearing to try to solve some of the problems for our young kids in Washington State. I'll be working very hard in the interim to try to continue to push this bill forward and continue to find ways for our students to be able to be employed in Washington State before they're 18 years old. We're about halfway through session. The bills will be going now to fiscal committees, and once they are voted out of fiscal committees, they will be heading to the House floor for a vote. Don't get discouraged. Please stay involved. We still have half of session left to go. Bills from the Senate will be starting to come over to the House side, where we'll be having public hearings and voting again. We need your support. We need you to stay involved, and thank you for being a part of the process.